want to thank everybody for coming out here for this very important day for Piscataway Township and announcing the federal grant that our good Congressman Frank Pallone was able to obtain for our Piscataway Police Department for the upgrading of our 700 megahertz, 800 megahertz radio system. This has been the council and my initiative over the last several years when the FCC came out with a rule that all municipalities and cities across the country and first responders have to have upgraded a radio system. For those folks out there that don't know, the FCC will be selling off the spectrum that currently the first responders are on broadband throughout the country, and that'll be auctioned off at some point when all the first responders are on the new, higher, more secured frequencies. And what does that mean for Piscataway Township, Middlesex County in general? It means that when a police officer and or a firefighter or EMS is in a large structure and or a basement area, that the actual radio transmission will go through to dispatch. Right now in our town and many towns across the United States, there's dark spots with the radio system out there where there's not instantaneous coverage out there, where you may have to come outside of a building to get coverage. When somebody's fighting a fire inside in their turnout gear, putting hoses, laying hose down on a fire, you can't necessarily hear the firefighters with the certain radio system that we currently have. This will all be the new digital radio system out there. We are going to be installing several new radio frequency towers throughout the town to close the gaps in the system to allow better coverage for both our police and fire system. Our congressman was able to get through the Division of Law Justice Department a very nice grant that goes paid towards the money. We were able to use, Congressman, the bulk of the money was being paid for by the Inflation Reduction Act right there, which again was voted by Congressman Pallone and signed into law by the President of the United States. As a matter of fact, when I was at the White House back in January, I did have 30 seconds of time with the President, and I did mention to the effect that we were using that money towards the police and fire radio system, and he was very happy to hear that. So, Congressman, I'll let you come up and talk about all the wonderful things you've been doing for our town.
Well, first of all, let me start by saying all the wonderful things that you do, Mayor. You know, if you listen to what Mayor Waller just said, it's not only that he's providing and getting these grants, or in this case, a community project for the town of Piscataway, but also mentioned this nationally and the role that he's played nationally through the mayor's organization. I know a lot of times people say, well, you know, what do I care about what goes on nationally? My main concern is what happens here. But this is kind of a precedent that the mayor has been talking about around the country. You mentioned being at the White House, and I just want everybody in Piscataway to know that he's outstanding not only here for you, but also working with other mayors around the country and trying to get the federal government to do more. Because as Mayor Waller said, the fact of the matter is that the FCC is mandating this type of upgrade, but they don't necessarily provide the money, right? And this is, you know, Senator Smith knows that too, that we always, you know, the towns always say, well, you guys tell us you got to do stuff, but, you know, where's the cash to do it? And so one of the things that the mayor is saying is that, you know, the federal government should not just mandate things, they should also try to provide the funding for it. And so this is our way of doing that. So I just want to talk a little bit about it. I mean, in the aftermath of Sandy and also Ida here in Piscataway, you know, a lot of times the communication systems break down, and it's very important to have a communication system that's, you know, state of the art, but also that can communicate with other first responders, you know, not just the police, but fire and, you know, first aid or whatever, or just the public in general in case of an emergency. And so that's why this is important too, because as we know, we have more and more of these extreme weather conditions, not only in Piscataway, but in the state and around the country. And so we need to have really good systems. But in particular here, from what I understand, that this is going to improve the response times and the capabilities of the police department by basically purchasing new computer equipment, handheld radios, CCTV, and other vital communications equipment. And it's going to ensure critical interoperability with other first responders and enhance their capabilities, God forbid, if we have another storm. I say God forbid, but we know we're going to have another storm, unfortunately, because of what's happening with more and more disasters. And so we just want to make sure that Piscataway in those circumstances can communicate better in town as well as with the county and other police departments. So I just want to say I've seen the mayor and the council. I should mention the council as well because they're all a team, right? It's not just the mayor; it's also our council people that are here. Now, worry about every aspect, right? I mean, in other words, I came out here today and he said, "You notice there are no dandelions in the grass," and Piscataway is beautiful because the mayor and council just attend to every aspect of the community, and this is just another example where they are concerned about an emergency situation and want to make sure that the police and first responders are up to date in what they do. So actually what we have here is, the last thing I'm going to say is, this is actually I would call a line item that's put into our annual budget, right, for $963,000. So what I do is every year I go to the various towns and I say, well, what would you like us to do specifically to put in the budget as a line item? We call them community projects. And of course the mayor said that this was the most important one for Piscataway, which is why we put it in the budget that the president signed a few months ago. So I just want to thank everybody in Piscataway, Mayor, Council, Senator Smith, everyone for working with me on these types of community projects. Thanks again, everybody.
Thank you, Congressman. Senator, do you want to come say a couple quick words? Senator Smith.
Just very briefly, it's a thrill for Piscataway to get another federal grant, and through the good offices of Congressman Pallone and our good mayor and council team. And I would suggest to you that the last two grants, this one for the improvement in emergency communications, and the recently announced grant for the 28 new charging stations, the new solar that's going, additional solar on our rooftops, they're both thematically correct. Because unfortunately, global climate change is barreling like a freight train toward us. We're going to have more unfortunate, very difficult weather events, and those emergency communications, there's no question of mine it's going to save lives. And adding solar on the rooftops and more charging stations helps the town to reduce its global footprint. More towns in New Jersey need to do what Piscataway is doing. You're all to be commended, the congressman, the mayor, and the council, for being light years ahead of a lot of places in New Jersey. And we appreciate your good work. And hopefully it helps us to mitigate the impacts of global climate change. God bless.
Thank you, Senator. Deputy Chief, you want to say?
Thank you. Say a few words. First, I want to thank Senator Pallone. I really appreciate. This is very important for us, for public safety, to have a safe and effective radio system. So we thank you. Thank you from all the men and women. And I thank the mayor for pushing forward with this. So this will be a great project for us.
And last but not least, before I clean up, our council president just say a few words.
Oh gosh.
Yeah.
I don't know if I can reach the mic. Yeah. So nothing much more to add here. Just thank you, Congressman, always for advocating for Piscataway. The mayor does a yeoman's job down in D.C., obviously talking to our federally elected officials to get as much funding into this town as possible. And that's really to the benefit of the residents of Piscataway. So thank you, and I thank my council members here, Councilman Reverend Rouse, Councilwoman Sharon Carmichael for coming out. And I don't know, Mayor, if you want to introduce the other folks here. Thank you.
From our Office of Emergency Management, Nick Lombardi, and then also District 2 Fire Commissioner Pete Combatis. I think the overall strategy for public safety in the town as far as the radio system, once we get the system up and running, and this is also the rebuilding also the dispatch center, which is part of this, and adding the additional towers, we will be running fiber optic lines eventually to tie everything up there. And then we're hoping once we run the fiber optic lines, we'll be able to have residents working with a private company tie up for high-speed internet as part of that. So this is going to be all-inclusive. It may take a couple of years, but there is a strategy, method to the madness. And the first building block of this is the radio communication, believe it or not, because we're looking to have fiber go to all 26 parks and our newest 27th, the Ecological Park, as well as the towers. And once that happens, there will be a backbone system where residents will be able to tie up to high-speed internet to a private company on the government lines. So which is going to be good, because I think that's the biggest complaint that we get in this town is about the speed of internet. But you know, government also needs high-speed internet, and I want to thank Congressman Pallone also because he voted for the broadband legislation where there is $50 billion nationally where towns can submit into getting a high-speed broadband network. So it all interconnects with public safety, even though we're speaking about here the radio system today, but everything's interconnected, as Senator Smith said. So I want to thank you, and just be patient while all the construction's going on for the service. So we're expecting at some point late summer of 2025 to hope that everything have operational. So, and I know the fire companies, the volunteer firefighters are going to be very happy about that with their, and that too, as well as our EMS. So thank you all for coming out today, and I want to thank Congressman Pallone for actually getting to knock down, drag out fights, as you can see, down in Washington on behalf of the residents of Piscataway, Middlesex County. So thank you. Great. Lovely. Thanks again.